Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we explore the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Milan Kohut, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced, the lessons learned, and the strategies fueling future growth. Today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by Evan Dawson, founder of One Day Starts with Day One, who draws from his days as a Target retail executive to now teaching digital marketing skills that build high-income businesses in weeks or less. Through his SMEA program, he shows everyday people how to launch freedom-generating ventures without prior experience or quitting their jobs first. His approach rescued him from time-consuming grind, freeing up life for vacations, kids' events, and personal pursuits. With that being said, Evan, let me officially welcome you to Founders Future.
Thank you so much. Honored to be here.
It's great to have you, man. We're going to dive right into the conversation. What I love to do at the beginning of every single episode is a bit of traveling back in time. So before you even had this company, what were you doing before? And then eventually, what was the motivation for starting the business?
Well, like you said, I was working at Target. I was a retail employee for many years of my life. It was a grind. I did love working with the team, and I rose through the ranks pretty quickly. I was able to climb that corporate ladder, ended up as an executive with Target, working lots of different positions for them. But as many of you know, as you rise through the ranks of a 9 to 5, they will pay you a little bit more, but they're going to require a lot more of your time. I have a family of 7 now, so I have 3 kids, 2 foster girls, and
Wow.
I was just not having enough time to spend with them, and it got less and less as the years would go on, and I was getting burnt out. I was in probably my late 30s, and I'm like, I don't want to be doing this for 30 more years. Like, this is crazy. And I saw an online course that would teach you how to make money online, and that intrigued me. That was back in late 2018. I jumped on it, knew nothing about digital anything. I didn't know digital online sales, funnels. It was all new to me, and I was able to learn and scale pretty quickly.
Beautiful, man. I mean, there is not that many people who have a similar story, going from Target to running this kind of successful project. So, it's inspiring, 100%. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of pivotal moments, though, along the journey as you were really clarifying who is it that I'm going to work with? How is this going to work? How am I going to follow up on my promises? So there is a lot to talk about. We're going to dive into everything as we go through the conversation. But going into this part of the podcast, my goal is very, very clear, which is to bring some clarity to our listeners in terms of who is it exactly that you're trying to help right now, but also what are the core offerings that you have in place for your clients. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, great. So I started with working with small businesses in local markets. We're talking service-based businesses, chiropractors, gyms, nail salons, that sort of thing. And I was only doing lead generation for them. I learned how to run simple paid ads on Facebook, Instagram to drive traffic to their businesses. And over the years, my offerings and what I do has evolved because of that. And honestly, it happened by accident. It was a very happy accident. It took me, if anybody's wondering, it took me about 18 months to be able to make enough money to transition away from retail. So it wasn't an overnight success story. I mean, 18 months in the grand scheme of your life is pretty quick, but it was a grind because I was already tapped out on the hours I was working with retail, and now I was adding this new business on top of it. So I would start waking up at 4 a.m. instead of 5:30 a.m. when I needed to wake up to get to my job. And I would just grind. I would be messaging people, prospecting when I could. And I found that, I didn't learn this early on, and this is something I wish I had learned, is pick a niche or a niche, whatever you want to call it. Pick one that you can really sink your teeth into, that you're interested in, because I had all sorts of clients that first year and all different. I had real estate, like I said, chiropractors, gyms. It was very different offerings, and it was very different marketing and sales for each one of those industries. So then one day I was on a group in Facebook. It was like an entrepreneurs group. And this guy asked, hey, can somebody help us build a funnel for our Black Friday sale? So I looked at this guy, and it turns out he was a trader, like a stocks and options trader. And it was all online that he was doing. It wasn't like my typical local brick and mortar business. So I started thinking, why wouldn't this work for an online business to drive traffic, to do lead gen? So I reached out to this guy, said, I could definitely help with this. Let's jump on a call. And that was, gosh, going on almost 8 years ago. And that company, I am now a CEO partner of that company still to this day. And after that, I took on several other traders, and I learned that going after what I call subject matter experts who are doing a great job producing content online. You have so many YouTubers out there that have 50,000, 200,000 subscribers, and they haven't productized their knowledge in a way to where they can really monetize it. And that's what I help them do. So I come alongside these content creators, these influencers. I help them productize their knowledge in a value funnel way where I'm helping them create free lead magnets, low ticket offers, mid ticket, high ticket. And the high ticket sometimes includes sales closers, just like closers.io trains. And it was amazing to me the amount of money that was out there for some of these creators. They were leaving a lot of it on the table. They were relying on their YouTube ad revenue, which, for many of them, if they had 50 to 100,000 subscribers, that might be $2,000 or $3,000 a month. I have so many stories from clients where I have taken them from a couple $1,000s a month to well over six figures per month. One of my bigger clients in November, we did over $600,000, and I've been working with them for about 2 years now. So the scalability of this is very evident, and it's not hard to do. I say it's simple, it's not easy. The concept of doing this for any online business is very easy or very simple, but actually putting in the work, learning the skill set, learning the tools to use, that takes a little bit of time. But once you learn it, you don't forget it because the theme of it, the value ladder, it stays the same the entire time.
I love that. Absolutely. Now, considering your industry, though, obviously there is some people who are only focusing on the work done on like one-on-one basis. There's some people pivoting towards something on a group model to have something more scalable. I'm just curious how you went about this whole thing. What is the current structure of those offers? Is it just one-on-one? Is it group? Just tell us more about it.
So I do both, but I do want to start with it took me at least 2.5, 3 years to be comfortable teaching other people what I do. I always had that stigma. I don't want to be somebody that goes online that hasn't accomplished it myself and just starts putting courses out there and selling stuff. I would see that all the time. And I took several courses that were honestly terrible. I wasted money, all along the journey. Some of them were good, some of them weren't so good. So I knew that if I was ever going to teach somebody how to do this, I wanted to put a program together that made sense for anybody that had never done this before, just like me, help them get over the hurdles a lot faster and avoid the pitfalls that I made the first 3, 4 years of doing this. And I have both of those offerings. So I'm definitely not promoting one-on-one right now because I only take on about two clients every single month to learn this where I work with them one-on-one, but I do have a group coaching program. You mentioned one day starts with day one. If you go to onedaystartswithdayone.com and you go all the way down to the bottom, you're going to see a link for Subject Matter Expert Academy. And that is a done with you group program. Weekly calls, you get a full 8-week curriculum there. And I have spent years developing that, and I'm constantly tweaking it because with AI tools that are out now, they're constantly changing. There's better ones out there, so I'm having to go in and make sure that the program is updated. And I don't promote it that much. It's mostly through referrals and people coming in saying, "Hey, I heard about you. Are you the Target guy?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's me." And I'll get on calls, I'll talk to them and see if it's possible for them to be able to do this. I know it is, but a lot of people struggle with that scarcity mindset where they are where I was 6, 7 years ago. I don't know if this is going to work. And this investment, even though we have a winter sale right now, which is great, they're like the investment's kind of big. I'm like, listen, I'm going to work with you. And to be honest with you, I probably do a lot more than I should with the group program. People jump into that done with you, and it's mostly automated, but I'll get in there and I'll ask them questions. I'll go back and forth. I'll make sure they're getting success because having success from my students, honestly, is way more important. One of my clients, we did over $8,000 just yesterday, which is great, but I've been doing this for years. It gives me a lot bigger thrill to see somebody maybe that's working retail start learning this and get their first client. That gives me a high more than anything else. And not everybody believes that, not everybody understands that. But the people that I have a network with now, online marketers that are, high 7, 8 figure marketers, they feel the same way. When they help somebody else get that success, it is a high you can't get from, coffee, nicotine, anything else. It's amazing. So I love doing that. I love seeing it.
No, absolutely. I mean, especially if somebody's coming from your type of background where you know how much of a hustle and grind this was to really get to this point. So obviously, the level of understanding that you have for your clients, it's something else. So I completely get that. Um, Now, Evan, when it comes to working with your clients one-on-one, I'm just curious, what does it typically look like in terms of what would you say is the average duration of you really working with a client, just so that you have enough space to really walk them through the journey and make sure that you set them up for success? How does that look
Sure.
like?
This is something that I'm actually very proud of. The last 4 of 5 students have gotten clients with me during their 8-week program.
Wow.
And the reason is because I strategically structure it. We're starting with mindset, but then we get into prospecting very quickly. I show them exactly who they should be going after, help them pick their niche that's going to work for them, and I help them know how to prospect, do the marketing, build out the funnels for them, all of that. And this is something that I know a lot of a lot of course creators, a lot of program directors don't do, but I take revenue share instead of charging, 10K, 20K, 30K, a lot of the programs that are out there that honestly don't have as much value as my program. I charge 2,700 for one-on-one. And like I said, I'm not taking on any students right now, but the one-on-one aspect, I help with their first 3 clients. I will get on the sales calls with my students and close them. And I've done that several times. I just helped a woman close a deal with a big roofing company the other day. It was awesome. There's 3 of us on the call. It was me, my student, and the prospect, right? This business owner. They're so fun. And I've done the calls so many times. I have a very high close rate. So I'm very confident that I can help my one-on-one students close deals.
Yeah, listen, dude, this is so refreshing to me to see how much dedication you actually have to what's going on with your clients. And also knowing how much time and effort you actually put into like going through those courses yourself and really just elevating yourself as a professional, as a business owner. Because especially in today's day and age, though, like the entry barrier. It's just a low barrier for entry for a lot of people who want to become coaches and consultants in various different industries, right? So we have a lot of professionals, a lot of gurus for anything and everything. So to see somebody who actually went through the treacherous journey of like really seeking the answers, it's just refreshing to me, though. I feel like in the past few years, people really started to see through the bullshit. And they
Yep.
know who is actually legit and who is not. So again, I just love to see it. Hats off to you for having this much dedication. Now, when it comes to really running this kind of project, obviously one of the things that you constantly have to think about is what you're going to do with your own marketing to make this happen and have the ability to get in front of the right people at the right time and have the ability to close the deal. So I'm curious, you already gave us a little sneak peek in terms of talking about the referrals. But what is really happening on the front of marketing and maybe specifically lead generation to make this happen?
A lot of AI this day and age is going into it. There's people that will call all of this new technology, they'll call it AI slop. I got into a conversation with somebody just the other day about this, and he was asking, hey, if you're taking on a client to help them build a website, do you also do the copywriting for them? I'm thinking, why would you not do the copywriting? And they're like, well, because it's so time consuming. I'm like, well, just honestly use ChatGPT version 5.2. And they're like, oh, you're talking about AI slop. I'm like, listen, you're one person. No matter what you've learned in your life, when you're using an LLM, a language learning model, it has the data from all the greatest copywriters who have ever lived, like at its fingertips instantly. In nanoseconds, you can write copy for email sequences, landing pages, ads. It doesn't matter. You obviously you're going to use your own common sense. Does this sound right? But the 5.2, it's the newest version of ChatGPT. I have yet to have it make a mistake when I'm trying to write copy. Now, there's a lot of things that go into that. You can't just give it a prompt. Hey, I got this client, write everything for me. Like, no, you have to be what's called a prompt engineer. You have to know what the goals are going in. So you do have to have skills with the prompts. But man, it has saved so much time and effort being able to do that. And that's what I'm teaching my students how to use that. And when you're using it and it's giving you all of the answers, you're actually learning at the same time because it's going to be providing you answers, things that you hadn't thought about. And you're like, oh, that's actually something that I could use for other clients. And so I'm constantly evolving, I'm constantly learning. And myself, I'm constantly buying courses. I just bought a content creation course on Meta, how to really make content pop on Meta. And I've been doing ads and social media content for my clients and myself for years. And there were still things in that course. I'm like, okay, that's a new take on it. That's a new angle. Things like I'll share this, a pro tip. People worry that if I post too much on my Facebook page, everybody's going to be like leaving, unfollowing. And if you look at the stats, only about 10% of your followers see any of your content. 90% are people that have never seen you before, new eyeballs for your content. So you don't have to worry about that. Some people will post 20, 30 times a day and you're like, oh my gosh, that must take you weeks to do. I'm like, no, it takes me maybe an hour to make that much content, and I'm getting new eyeballs constantly. And I'm doing the same thing for my clients. I'm teaching my students how to do it for their clients.
Beautiful. Now, when it comes to your own company, would you say that at this point in time, everything you do is on the front of organic, or is there also like a paid ads aspect to whatever is happening on the marketing front?
It's a little bit of both, but organic. So there's a quick tip here. You can post a lot of organic content. Videos do great. Sometimes just simple text, heading post on Facebook with that color behind it. Sometimes those things will go nuts. Whenever you have an organic post start going semi-viral or viral, you can always turn that into a paid ad because it hit a nerve. If you just start putting out all these paid ads, you can do that. You can do a lot of split testing, but you're also going to waste a lot of money doing it. So you got to see what your audience is interested in and then take those and turn them into paid ads. I do the same thing for my clients. When they put out a bunch of posts and they're doing these videos, it astounds me the types of videos. My clients as well, they're scratching their head. They're like, gosh, I've done videos for years and it's always about the same video. Why did this one get millions of views? I'm like, I don't know. You don't know. The algorithm probably doesn't even understand it completely, but it went. So let's turn that into an ad, or let's at least take the theme of that video and start putting more organic content out around that topic because you clearly hit a nerve with your audience.
Yeah, this is a very solid advice, man. I feel like even with a lot of people are on the fence of whether they should start investing into ads, whether they should give up on the organic, like what is the best approach? I would never give up on the organic because it's a great way for you to really stay engaged with the audience and just give people a chance to see who you are, what you stand for, what is going on with the business, what you can do for them. But at the same time, ads can really take it to the next level, especially if you're smart about it and do what you just said, right? So I love this though. Evan, when it comes to you talking about AI, I'm very, very curious about how this is affecting your philosophy in terms of building teams. Because delegation has really become like one of the biggest topics on the podcast. Obviously, we cannot really do everything by ourselves, but at the same time, yes, AI can be a huge, huge help. So, when it comes to the structure that you have in place right now, have you already built out your internal teams, whether that's for sales, marketing, or whatever else that might be? Or are you just trying to run this as a one-man show?
No, I would love to. I think with the tools we have now, anybody can run this as a one-person show. You're just freeing up your time and your bandwidth when you hire virtual assistants to do a lot of this stuff for you. I'm very results driven, so I really don't care if my VAs are using AI. I encourage it. As long as the results are there, they can use it for creating posts, they can use it for creating videos now, and I'm fine with that. And I have VAs across the spectrum. I have a full-time VA now for my graphic design. He's amazing. I use him for my own business. I use him for several clients. I have a video editor that's on staff. I've got several prospecting VAs. I have one guy, he's really good. I call him my bird dog. He'll just go out and he'll find these content creators that have between 100 and maybe 250,000 subscribers that he can't see any. I've trained him how to, look for influencers that don't have a clear offering. Like they have great views, they have tons of subscribers, tons of followers, but they're not selling anything. They're leaving money on the table. So I'm like, hey, just go find me those influencers and get them on a call with me. And then I show them, listen, you're doing a great job, but you're leaving a lot of money on the table, and you can be making a much bigger impact with people if you can take them up the value ladder. And most of these influencers are like, what do you mean? When you say value ladder, what does that even look like, right? And so it's a very easy sale because I can also now, at this point, I have case studies, I have testimonials, I got lots of cool, ClickFunnels, $1 million awards. I use lots of different platforms at this point. But it shows them it's possible, and it shows them what's possible for somebody like them. They don't just need to rely on the ad revenue. And then when I get in with a client, I help them build their team out. Many times when I get to the high ticket level and I'm starting to sell something that is, over 1,000, 2,000, sometimes $10,000 or greater, they're going to need somebody that's going to take sales calls. And I'm typically the person, when I grow a sales team for a client, I'll start taking those high ticket sales calls early on because I want to really be able to revamp the script so that it works well, it converts well. And as soon as I have that in place, well, I have a fleet of closers. Closers.io is a great place to go to get trained closers for high ticket sales, and they want, maybe 20, 30% of the sale. My clients are fine with it. I'm great with it because I know they've been trained well. And so I'll bring them on and we'll have them close. And that also frees up my time after I've solidified the offer and I know that it will convert.
Beautiful. Evan, I love this project though. I love how you talk about the impact. Obviously, this is not just about like building the company, making more money. This is really about like shifting the client's perspective, showing them what's possible, and actually walking them through the journey. So I'm absolutely loving this though. I'm curious what's going to happen next with the company, right? When you think about your goals, maybe specifically the next, let's say 6 to 12 months. What would you say really are the biggest targets for you, the goals, the revenue, the milestones that you have set for yourself?
For my personal business, Subject Matter Expert Academy, to get as many people out of their 9 to 5 as possible. I don't have a number on how many people, but I've coached thousands of students now. I've coached thousands of people that have been in retail industry in 9 to 5 jobs, and not everybody hates their job. A lot of people these days, especially because of inflation, they're just wanting extra income. And so they're wanting to be able to learn a skill they can do on the side, a side hustle that they can take and run with, and then have the option down the road if they did want to leave their job or retire early, they have this thing to fall back on. And so I'm wanting to teach as many people that as humanly possible. And then on my client side, I have very specific goals for each one of my clients. The client that we did over 600,000 in November with the Black Friday Cyber Monday sales, my goal next November is over $1 million. So it's very clear goals, stair step paths for more revenue, and again, greater impact for them.
Beautiful. Now, when you think about hitting those goals and really growing and scaling in the future, I'm curious, out of everything, what would you expect to really become the biggest challenge to make it happen?
That's a great question. So it depends on the industry. With my traders, it is very macroeconomic centric, meaning if the markets are doing terrible and everybody's losing money, they don't have the extra $15,000 to join a trading mastermind, right? Some of the greatest times in history, it was a terrible time to be on this planet during the pandemic, but for an online marketer, it was amazing because we did record sales every month because you had all these people that were either starting to work from home for the first time, that had all this extra time on their hands, or they were laid off, which also gave them a lot of extra time on their hands. And some of them had, severance or extra pay, and they're like, what am I going to do now? And so they started learning online skills, and that helped grow Subject Matter Expert Academy at the beginning. And it also helped a lot of my trading clients to scale to numbers that we didn't think were possible. And I don't want another pandemic, but at this point, you really do have to look at the macroeconomics and be ready, be prepared for something like that when and if it happens again, to be able to jump right in and to not start at that point. Starting then is too late. Starting now would be a great idea for anybody.
Yeah, good old COVID, man. What a pivotal time for the entire humankind.
Oh
That's
yeah.
ridiculous. Beautiful. Evan, I'm going to ask you one last question, though. And this is actually one of my favorite ever. But considering you've been in business for several years at this point, if you could travel back in time and maybe talk to yourself at the very, very beginning of your journey as an entrepreneur, what would be the best piece of advice that you would give yourself?
I talk about this a lot with my students. Stay consistent. Everybody, and people probably listening to this right now, they're excited, right? Like, oh, I could probably do this, right? But a lot of people, when they start something new, they have this intensity. And if you can think in your brain about a large fireball, right? Just huge flames, that's intensity. Well, in week one, this is, when we're doing this podcast right now, it's the first week of a new year. And so everybody's hitting the gym again. Everybody's got that intensity for whatever their New Year's resolutions are. The problem is gyms are silent again March, April. Well, why is that? It's because they were intense about it. They weren't consistent. I would much rather see small flames, barely even seen flames, but every single day they don't get smaller. They don't even need to get bigger. They just stay consistent. And in my early days of digital marketing, I would have these, I called them sprints, where I would just be prospecting like crazy. I'd be taking all these clients, and then I would get so many that I had to stop prospecting because I was so intense with that one aspect of business that it kind of screwed up the rest of my business. And I couldn't be that intense forever. I mean, people burn out if you do that. So just learn the skill, stay consistent, even if it's posting social media content, for instance. Post one time today, and then tomorrow, post one time. And then the next day, post one time. And if you can add another post to that, great, post twice. But stay posting twice. Only take on as much as you can chew right now. But as you stay consistent, the algorithms are going to reward you because they love trusting channels and accounts that are going to be consistent. The people that are going out there right now saying, "Oh, this is going to be my year. I'm going to post 50 times today." Well, in a week from now, if they're posting 5 times, what do these platform algorithms say? Well, I guess we can't trust this person to help our users have a good experience because they're all over the place, right? Just stay consistent. And as you're consistent doing things that you've never done before, you're going to get better at them. Mr. Beast, largest YouTuber on the planet, he will tell you your first 100 videos will be terrible. Nobody wants to hear that, but it's true. If you've ever started something, when you start, I don't care if it's riding a bike, if it's skateboarding, you're terrible at the beginning. If you stay consistent with it, you're going to eventually be a professional at whatever that thing is. Malcolm Gladwell, if you've ever read the book Outliers, talks about 10,000 hours is what it takes for someone to become an expert. Doesn't matter what it is. Playing the piano. You want to be an expert pianist? Great. Spend 10,000 hours playing. You're going to get there. You got to start sometime. A lot of people plan and they learn and they learn and they plan and they never implement. Those people have a lot of knowledge. Well, like I said, AI has more knowledge than you'll ever have. Your goal is implementing, actually taking action. That's what's going to get you to move the needle for your life.
Yeah, this is interesting from so many angles, though, because as you were talking about this, you reminded me of a different conversation I had with somebody else. And I was talking about the fact that goal setting is something that people perceive as something very easy. But in reality, we just typically do what you said about the like so much intention and so much focus at the beginning and setting those huge goals that I want to achieve. Well, obviously, are you going to stick with it? No. There's no way. So if you can just chunk it up and aim for something smaller but more consistent with it, that is the key though. Like I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of people when they listen to such an advice, they feel like, oh Jesus, that's such a cliche after all this time. But when you think about it, it really is the key. So
Yeah.
I love that.
And if you don't mind, I'll say this. You're a great interviewer, but I would imagine your first couple of interviews,
Oh
they
yes.
they weren't this polished. There's no
Oh,
way.
yes. Very true. Very true. Everything is a numbers game, man. So at the end of the day, that's what it is. Evan, let me say this. I very much appreciate you taking the time, sharing the story with me and the audience. I love the time that I had spent with you. If anybody from the listeners would like to reach out, get in touch, and perhaps one day even work with you, how should they go about it?
Just go to the site. One day starts with day1.com. And I know I got cute with the URL there, but everybody says one day I'm going to XYZ.
Yeah,
People that are in a job that they hate, they're like, one day I'm going to figure out a way to get out of this. Well, one day starts with day one. It starts with taking action.
I love that. Beautiful. Now, to our listeners, if today's conversation inspired you as well, make sure to subscribe to Founders Future on your favorite platform. And also, if you're a business owner, more specifically a consultant or a coach, or you have an agency and you're trying to scale the business and really enhance both your sales and marketing efforts, also visit closers.io, get in touch with our team, and discover how exactly we scaled our company from zero to over 30 million per year in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on crushing it, and I'll see you on the next one.